Hello, welcome to my channel. This is episode 7 of Sweater Freak's Knitting Lounge, and this is my little podcast where I talk about knitting, about knitting, answer some of your questions, and just talk about my whips and my FOs and my designs and pretty much anything related to knitting. So I'm Sweater Freak. I can be found as such here on YouTube, on Instagram, on Ravelry. Same handle everywhere. And yeah, so if you like the content, click subscribe, click like. It really helps to promote the channel because I have just recently started podcasting on a regular basis. So every like would help me to push my content. Anyway, let's get to it. So today I have a couple of questions and I have a new release. So by the time you watch this, the release will be out. So, so I'm recording this on Saturday, November 9th, and on Monday when you'll be watching this, all of the links in the show notes would work. Anyway, let's start with questions because it's a bit more interesting. So, the first question I got them on my computer here, so I have to read them off. Can you give me the name of the bag you bought on Temu and if there's any merino wool on Temu? Okay, so there's two questions. So in one of my previous episodes, I showed some of the Temu, however you pronounce it, things I bought to test them out because they were kind of like knockoffs of other brands we have here. And I showed this bag. Sorry, it's full. The bag is actually full. Again, I'm constantly organizing things, but it seems I'm casting on too many projects. So this is the bag. It's full, and you can tell I've got most of my knitting on the go in this bag. And on the go, I mean I don't take it outside. I just use it inside the house, moving, from room to room, my office to dining, etc., etc. The name of the bag, there's no name. If you put mesh bag in Temu, mesh snap bag in Temu, it should come up, and there's various colors and price points, but I think it's a knockoff of, what's that brand name? Starts with D, I forget. Anyway, it's actually really handy. And I bought it for $14 Canadian, but you can find it and for like 20, 30, whatever, whatever color you want pretty much, and you can find it for yourself and test it out. And if you really like it, you can get yourself an original maybe, it's sort of how it works sometimes. Anyway, yeah, is there merino wool on Temu? Because I have a lot of yarn, I don't generally look for yarn in these discount places because I have so much good yarn and I prefer to buy yarn that's good quality. And so not to say that the Temu would be bad quality yarn, but yarn is something that I actually think that you need to kind of splurge on a little bit. So I did not look, but I did see some cotton yarn kind of like show me, in a search. So you can just go and do a quick search and see if you find something that's, that maybe test things out, like get a skein or two and see maybe it is good quality, Yeah. The second question was about, I forgot already, so I gotta read that again. Oh, sorry guys. I've got my computer up here and it's, what is the best way to join a new skein of yarn when you're knitting in the middle of the project? Okay, so there's a few different ways depending on where you are on a project. If you're knitting a flat piece, which I often don't, rarely, unless it's a shawl, I rarely knit flat. I would just start a new yarn. I would wait till the new row and just join new yarn because I think that's sort of the cleanest, way to do it. If you are knitting in the round and you find yourself, you ran out of yarn, I use a Russian join, which works really well on most yarns, even single ply. And I have a tutorial on my channel, which I will link to in the show notes. It's funny because when I lived in Russia, where I'm originally from, I did not know about this. And somehow here in North America, it's called a Russian join. Go figure. Anyway, I really like it. And if you do it right, then it the yarn waste is 0 and it sort of blends in your fabric. It works especially well for plied yarns, but it works well for single ply too, so you could sort of give it a go. It doesn't work as well for plant fibers like linen and cotton. You know, these yarns do not work well with this type of method. But I mean, mostly I knit with wool. I know a lot of knitters mostly knit with wool, and I think for 90% of the cases, you know, it'll cover it. And next is I'm going to talk about cowls. It's not really a question. It's something, obviously I have a release coming up and I kind of wanted to talk about cowls and the fabric, sorry, the yarn you use for cowls and how it affects the fit. So I have a new release coming up, which I will link to by the time you watch this episode. It's called Minecrafty Cowl. And it's made with 2 contrasting skeins of Ms. Babs Yowza minis. So each mini has about 200 yards for 80 grams. So it's kind of like a DK worsted weight. And so I got 2 and it was plenty to complete this cowl. You can tell it's really, and it's got a slit. I really like the slit. And it has a little bit of a decreases. So I knitted bottom up, or sorry, actually no, I knitted top down. And so I've increased a little bit to give it a little bit of a better fit. I always find the cowls that have a bit of a shaping, they fit better. And sometimes design doesn't allow for it, and that's okay. But if the design does allow for it, I tend to do it. So I'm just gonna straighten out the slit here. My hair got in the way. And this cowl is quite large when I showed it to you, but when I put it on, it's just right. Why? Because it's using merino, and merino doesn't have that kind of stand-up oomph to it. I don't know, is that a term? And it sort of flops a little bit, and if you have to compensate for it and make it a little bit taller to make sure that it's still adequate to cover your neck. Now, obviously, your preference comes into play here. Some people like shorter cowls and they don't want to be like choked like this. And some people, you know, like me, they want to have a bit of warmth. So when I put my coat on, it sort of covers it up nicely. So it also depends on your preference. Now this is color work. So this is standard color work, and there's a chart. And you start out with the light color, gradually going through the chart, moving to the darker color. And I think it's, obviously I made it, so I'm biased, but I really like the black and white. This is my favorite color combination, and I just love it. It goes with anything, even this navy shirt I'm wearing. It's punchy. It's the most contrast, you know, among colors is black and white. And I like contrast knit, so I really like it. Now, obviously, if you choose different yarn, like if you go with non-superwash, this is superwash yarn, but if you go with non-superwash, what's going to happen is it's going to stand up more. And, you know, so you have to, when you're picking yarn, you obviously have to account for that. Now, I'm going to show you a finished object from this week. I have 2 finished objects to show you. This is one of them. This is up for test right now. And this is from Clinton Hill Cashmere Rib Welt Cowl, which I wanted to, again, have a little bit of shaping. And I start out at the bottom, move up, and there's a little bit of decreases here. And I've had to re-knit this 3 or 4 times to get it just right. So it looks huge. If you measure it from, you know, the entire length, it's 14.5 inches, which is long. If you tell me this, I'm like, wow, that's gonna like cover up most of my head. But let's see what happens when I put it on. It's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. And because cashmere tends to kind of flop a little bit, again, you need to account for that. And you need to make sure that you've knitted long enough tube of a cowl to compensate for this flopping, right? So, and yeah, so again, I have a slit, I have a little bit of decreases, or shaping, should I say, yeah, decreases here, to give it a little bit of a nicer fit. Now, in contrast to these yarns, which are softer, a little bit less memory, they don't have this standing oomph, I'm gonna again show you the cowl from last week. The mystery knit No Rhinebeck No Problem, which is knit in non-superwash wool, which is not this length here is only 9 inches. So it's 5 inches less than this cowl. And when I put it on, it just stays like that. So this is the difference. If you knitted that in superwash, this whole thing would flop and you'd have to knit it bigger or longer to have the same kind of effect. So yarn choices, when you're making something like this, or anything really, but especially an accessory that you are after a certain fit, you definitely have to think about the yarn choices. Now I got a mohair thing in my eye. Sorry guys. Anyway, I just made it worse. That's possible. So yeah, that's sort of something to keep in mind. And this year, this fall season, normally I knit like gazillion hats around this time, but this year I've just been knitting cowls. Like I made 2 samples from my mystery, and then I made this cowl, and then I made this earlier in the season. This I've had in testing for a couple of months. I just had to rearrange some design priorities and release dates. And so I've just been knitting more cowls. Now I do have another FO to show you. I don't know where it went. I thought I brought it down here, but now I can't see it. A blue hat, which is ribbon welt hat, and I made two different samples. Actually, one of them is still on my needles, and one of them I have, oh, here it is, it fell on the floor. Sorry. This is ribbon welt hat, which I will be, it's not a new pattern, but I will be uploading the new crayon shaping onto the PDF, so everyone who bought it will get it. And so I am actually not done with ribbon welt series. I will be adding more patterns to it just because I really like this juxtaposition of 2x2 ribbing and 2-row welting, which is great. I think it's classic. So if I put that on, there's 2 different ways to wear it. You could wear it like that, so you've got your shaping standing up like this. And again, this yarn is non-superwash. It's half alpaca, half wool, Barocco Ultra Alpaca. And because there's wool here, it stands up, okay? Or you could wear it, obviously I like to wear it on the side like that, so this texture shows up, and that way your shaping is kind of like this. So there's 2 different ways to wear it. And then, so these are my 2 FOs from this week. I'm really proud of myself. I've completed these FOs and I've cast on immediately for another ribbon welt. Now, I don't know about you, but this season, like when I'm looking at trends, the color trends, I'm seeing a lot of burgundy and a lot of plum and a lot of that. It's like really everywhere. And at first I thought, I don't like that color. It makes me look older because it's so dark and moody, but at the same time, it's sort of like crept up on me. You know how trends are? Like at first you deny them and then it sort of creeps up on you. And anyway, so when I was destashing, I went through my yarn and I actually destashed a bunch of burgundy yarn. Because I had doubles. I had not so much burgundy, but more like a plum shade. I'll show you this kind of shade that I had 3 or 4 different lots of different yarns that all had that color. And I sold them because they were sitting in my stash for 10 plus years. I'm like, I'm not gonna knit it. It's too, it just makes me look older. I don't want to knit with it. I don't want to knit anything. And then of course, I see it everywhere and I'm like, duh. Anyway, I did not sell everything. I found this cone that I had purchased from Color Mart about 11 years ago, and it's a heavy lace weight, so I had to triple it. So one thing about Color Mart that's really nice is that you can, using a scale, you can triple your yarn to the weight, to your desired weight. So you just have to do a bit of math and you get whatever you want. So this is DK. So it's the same. I went for the same weight as Bespoke DK Cashmere, and this is lamb's wool. So lamb's wool is sort of like, it doesn't have as much memory as regular merino because it's a little bit more lofty. This has oils in it, so I'd have to wash it. But it's also really soft. So it's kind of like between, more like an affordable option to someone who likes, you know, soft wool that blooms, but doesn't really want to spend or cannot spend, you know, money on cashmere. So I decided to knit a ribbon welt shawl, which will be a proof of concept. It'll be different than the scarf. And I started, and over one day I made this much progress because I kind of wanted, I was just like, I love this color. But, you know, obviously next to my face, well, I mean, there's lighting here, but anyway, I really like this color, and that's why I kept two lots, one DK for a sweater and this one. Different yarns, just the same color. Actually, I kept 3 lots. Oh boy. I tell you, that stash is, I sold 5 huge boxes and I'm still, it feels like I haven't made a dent. You know, what have I done? Anyway, yeah, so this is my current whip, and I'm also going to add a sweater to the series. I just can't really decide whether I want, what kind of neck I want to have on the sweater. And yeah, so that's what I've been to this week, and hopefully, you know, you can you know, make informed decisions about your cowls and to see whether, you know, what you like in a cowl fit and what kind of yarn you like to use, and how this translates to your finished product. So I hope that was helpful, and yeah, happy knitting. Thanks for joining me today, and hope you have a great week. Bye.